And that's Talling gone over for her try.
First touch of the game. How about that for an impact?
Mackenzie Carson finding the space and getting through for the score, her second.
ADHD can cause you to struggle with your mental health, and there's kind of like that back and forth with it. And I think especially as women, there's a lot of people that go undiagnosed and are diagnosed later in life because it presents very differently. You're listening to the England Rugby Podcast, O2 Inside Line. I'm Mackenzie Carson. I'm Mackenzie Carson. I play for Gloucester-Hartpury and the Red Roses. I'm a loose head prop, so at the front of the scrum, and I push really hard against other people and try to win the ball for the backs to score and get all the glory. Yeah, we definitely have to be really strong and really physical because a lot of our roles kind of tie into that close contact and getting front football for the teams. Nowadays too, you're expected to be pretty fast and pretty agile and have good hands as well. So the kind of modern day prop, I guess. So you kind of do a little bit of everything really. I think especially in the women's game, like obviously Sarah Bern and that, she's a pretty like world-class prop. So players like that, I think, are what I had in mind when I thought, oh, maybe I'll give it a go being a prop as well. So yeah, I think in the women's game, we're pretty blessed with, a lot of people that are able to kind of do different roles and they're not kind of pigeonholed into a single role right off the bat. Growing up as a kid, I probably was just actually crazy. Like I just was always doing stuff and playing loads of sports and super active and always had a super messy room, finding myself probably in a bit of trouble along the way, but nothing too serious, I guess. At home, it was me, my mum and my dad and my older brother, Keegan, who also played rugby. And he's nearly 3 years older than me. Lots of wrestling, lots of him bullying me pretty much, but I ended up being the better athlete anyway, so there you go. And then my nan as well, she lived 6 doors down from me. She's actually a Wilkinson, and she used to always say that she was related to Johnny Wilkinson, yet to be proven. All of the cousins used to go to our nan's house after school and stuff, and that was where we used to hang out and play mini sticks, which is like mini hockey in Canada. So I grew up in a place called Abbotsford, British Columbia. It's a bit of a farm town, known for our berry farms actually, and lots of like good corn in Chilliwack, which is the next city over, which is where my mum lives now. It was like a bit of like a rural kind of passing through town in Canada. I always found it a bit boring, pretty like traditional lifestyle in the suburbs around Vancouver. So a decent place to grow up for sure. Abbotsford, for whatever reason, was a huge rugby town. Like everyone played rugby and my dad played, my brother played. So I kind of just got dragged along to kind of go with them. Rugby wasn't huge in Canada, especially when I was younger, but it was in my house for some reason. So we always watched a lot of rugby, but it was mostly men's rugby because there just wasn't that kind of visibility, I guess, in the women's games. My grandparents moved to Canada from the UK when my mum was about 2 or 3 years old. It just seemed like a really appealing life to live in Canada. So when they were quite young, I think my nan was maybe 19, 20 years old, which is probably the same age that I was when I moved here. She picked my mum up and moved her whole life over. And it's pretty incredible when you think back to it as somebody who's 20 years old with a small child and restarting your life completely in Canada. But for them, they just saw the opportunity that Canada had to offer and the lifestyle, and I think they had some family there, and my mum was quite small, so she doesn't really have a lot of memories of living in England even, but she's way more Canadian than she even is English, I'd say. I think I just remember it always being like a really cool part of it. Like we'd have cousins come visit. It was just such a cool thing, like, and you'd kind of brag about, like I've got relatives over in England, like all the way in England, which is so cool. And I think I just liked the fact that my mum was from somewhere different and had a bit of a different upbringing and a different lifestyle. I thought it was quite interesting, I guess, growing up, and I was always asking them questions about, our family that lived over here and things like that. And then obviously as I got a bit older as well, and like we started playing sports and stuff like that, my mum was always an England fan, like would wear her England top no matter what, even when I was playing for Canada. Like she literally always had an England top on, and my dad's side of the family is Scottish, so he always had a Scotland top on. So it was just like this kind of like funny rivalry, I guess, in my family. I feel way more at home in England now that I do in Canada. I think it's been so long that I've lived here. I often say like I go visit Canada and then I'm coming home back to England. So, but I guess like where you grew up and the place that you kind of have those early memories will always be some form of home. And I just wish I could bring all the people in Canada and all the people in England and just put them in one place and we could all live in one place together. But so I think that's probably the thing I miss most, is more the people rather than necessarily the place.
My name's Darcy Patterson, and I was one of Mackenzie's first coaches in British Columbia. When I first met Mackenzie, I think one of the words to describe her would be character. Always pretty funny, a little bit challenging to coach in some ways because she didn't love to do the fitness, but always was so good at the rugby. So it was great to work with her. She was always someone who brought joy to the game and quite a bit of laughter. One of the first times I got to meet Mackenzie was when we first started the BC Sevens program. And I was like, whoa, who is this person who can spin past like 15 meters, but also has the size that she has and the power that she has? Obviously, I think everybody here would love her to be playing for Canada. But if you can cheer somebody on and see them achieve their dreams and support them, regardless of who they're playing for, I think that that's pretty special. To change countries is always a challenge. And for her to be able to like do that, I think shows a little bit of her own willingness to like pursue her own dreams and not that of other people around her. And I think that that's pretty special in a young woman to be like, no, this is what's best for me. And I mean, England is one of the best teams in the world, and to crack their front row is a really, really challenging thing to do. And so as her community of coaches and people who have supported her, I think everyone was extremely excited to see that happen for her. I think she's a really good role model for young women who maybe are looking for their place and are like, oh, okay, I'm really strong, I'm really powerful, I can do something like this. And I know there's a few athletes from BC and from her hometown in Abbotsford that have kind of really looked up to her, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. I want to play in a really high level competition. I couldn't be any more proud of her.
The first time I ever went to like training, my dad whipped the ball at me and I hit my face and I cried and I was like, oh, this is terrible. I don't ever want to do this again. And obviously it didn't last long, did it? So I think he just I wiped the tears off and he was like, just carry on. And then I loved it after that. It's very similar to here in the sense of, yeah, you play kind of at your club and certain schools would have it as well. And it wasn't so separate where like a lot of schools in the UK, you can only play rugby if you're a boy in a lot of schools. And it was a bit different to that. So yeah, like my school had a girls team and it was quite a successful girls team. So the kind of main pathway that they use to kind of like the senior women's team is going to university. So I went to the University of British Columbia, who had kind of a decent team, but they were pretty new into the whole like setup and not super successful. And they recruited me as a 10, which was probably a red flag in the first place that they needed a 10-12 and I'm now a prop. So that probably speaks to where they were at. You know what? I actually one time went to a rugby camp with my brother and I was like 10 maybe, and I won the grubber contest and all the kids were like 18. So just do what you want with that, you know? Would not back myself to do it now, and it's been a while. So yeah, probably leave that one to the professionals. So I just loved it. Like I loved being away from home. I loved, kind of being out on my own for the first time. And if it was choosing between school and rugby, it was always rugby for me, which has probably led me to where I am now. I loved it, and I loved meeting different people from like all walks of life. And, we had like people doing engineering courses and trying to become doctors and stuff like that. So I found that really cool, and that element of it really inspiring because it was just women doing a bunch of stuff that they really wanted to do and kind of chasing their dreams. I probably wouldn't have gone to university had it not been for rugby, because I don't think my family would have been able to afford it and I wouldn't have had the grades to kind of go and do it. So it opened that path for me. I think I was at university and I kind of was probably struggling a bit academically and didn't really know where I wanted to go. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm getting a bit older now. Like I probably need to figure out what I'm actually doing with things. And I think when I was in school, I really wanted to travel and go somewhere because I just hadn't really explored things. And I just had this like nagging thing to just go and play rugby somewhere. And I think that was the thing. I just knew I wanted to play rugby. I knew rugby was the one thing that I was like certain of. So yeah, I had been kind of following like the PWR, and I'd always just followed it on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. And I just kind of thought like, oh, like why not just like give it a try and go over there and see if I can play for a team and just see if I can just go live abroad and have a year out of uni and figure stuff out. I just basically made a stupid little highlight tape of me playing rugby, sent it to some coaches, and tried to get in touch with clubs. And Bristol were the only team that were probably silly enough to say, yeah, fine, you can get on a plane. Like, why not? So I just kind of dropped everything and dropped out of uni and moved over here, and it was only meant to be for a year. And I told my university coach, who I actually have a really good relationship with, and he's been a big part of my rugby journey, but I said, yeah, don't worry, Dean, like I'll come back, like I'm just going for a year. And he was like, you're not coming back, like that's gonna be it. So, and sure enough, I just loved it and played for Bristol for a season. and just had so much fun playing rugby and experiencing the world and doing all that traveling. I was like, I think I'm probably going to extend this gap year into a few. And I think I'm technically still in the gap year, to be honest. Yeah. So then I just kind of never really left the UK, and here we are. Settled on England, had some family, thought it would be kind of a good connection if I needed support and stuff like that to have them there. So, I mean, I think most people were kind of like, yeah, that checks out, that you're going to just up and leave and move to the UK to play rugby. Like, that makes a lot of sense. But I think my grandparents especially were like, are you serious? Like, we literally moved from England to Canada, and now you're moving back? Like, why would you move back? Like, there's nothing there for you. But they've quickly changed their tune. Yeah, obviously, as they saw like how happy I was and how much rugby has like fulfilled me and given me the friendships and the connections that I've had here. It's difficult at times, especially when you miss kind of like life milestones and stuff like that. Yeah, like people start having babies and getting married and doing those things, and it's amazing, but I always have to kind of watch from afar. The hardest part is definitely after the games, when everyone kind of runs over and gets to see their family. And that can be a bit, I guess, isolating. But at the same time, I've made such great connections with the girls here and their families, and they've all been so amazing. And it can be definitely isolating, and you kind of think, oh, like, what am I doing this for? Like, I'm missing out on all these things, and my family's back home, and what am I doing? So there's definitely times of questioning, I guess. But for me, it was just always made sense because I could go back and see them in the summers when it was nice weather, and then I could come back here.
My name's Alison Reeves, and I am the mum of Mackenzie Carson. Mackenzie, when she was growing up, was passionate, creative, funny as heck, and never stopped. She was always hustling, always busy, always on to the next adventure. When we moved to Abbotsford, we moved in sort of a rugby mecca. And so she was like, well, I want to give it a go. And so we signed her up for our mini program. First game out, she was tearing it up, scoring tries, knocking kids over. And her dad and I just kind of look at each other and we're like, oh, okay, this might be a thing. We've got other parents coming over going, oh my gosh, like, this is her sport. She fell in love with rugby that day, and it's been a constant, and she just started eating and sleeping rugby. Did we think she was going to get to this level? Absolutely not. It was never a thought. But she had something special. We knew that. To see it all come to fruition, but then not to be fully part of that experience as living in Canada, I don't think I can articulate how hard that is. What I'm most proud of Mackenzie for, it's not the rugby. It's obviously an amazing feat that not many get to achieve, and she has worked tremendously hard to make this happen. But that's the part that makes me most proud, is her drive and tenacity. She has faced adversity, serious injuries, and she just keeps getting up and doing it. She had a dream from 9 years old, first game, and she made it happen. She achieved it. And I mean, how many people can say that they started out with a dream at 9 and achieved it? She's just a kid like no other. And I love her to bits.
Flew over, handed out resumes, and landed a job at a coffee shop. And I think they just gave it to me because it was somebody that owned it, that was connected to the club somehow. So they were like, fine, you can come work here a few days a week. The latte art was tragic, and early mornings are not for me, and that's basically all it was. So I would train Tuesday, Thursdays in the evening till 9, 10 o'clock. And then, I'd be up at 7 o'clock making latte art for people taking their kids to school and stuff. So it was a bit of an interesting time. And there was a few times where Pat Lam and his wife came in. So I made their coffees every now and again. And I was like, oh, here's your coffee. Don't look at the art. Or sorry, I probably burnt the milk. But so it was just an interesting time where I was kind of dipping my toes into that kind of like professional rugby setting, but very much so still working and finding my way and kind of, just kind of making ends meet. To be honest, working at the foundation, at the Saracens Foundation, was probably the best, the most rewarding, I guess. I worked with Ella Vass, and we did kind of women's and girls as well as kind of disability and inclusion and stuff like that. So working with people in the community to kind of give sport back to people, I think that's where I really kind of found a passion outside of just playing. And also I just loved working with Ella, and we'd have biscuits in the office and pretend like we knew what we were doing, and then we'd go play rugby in the evenings. And it was just such a great time to meet people that are kind of in the rugby world but kind of not. And we blossomed a great friendship, and we're now roommates in camp. I had played age grade rugby for Canada growing up, and I moved over to England kind of, I guess, in the thought process that I was going to travel a bit, probably get a bit better at rugby, find my way, and then I'd go back and hopefully play for Canada one day. And that was kind of, I guess, the plan. I had never even thought about being like dual kind of, eligible or anything. And then obviously when you get into like the PWR and stuff like that, there's eligibility rules, and anyone that's English qualified basically has a different status in the league. So as I was filling out all the paperwork and stuff to kind of get registered at the club, they realized obviously that my mum was English, so then I was EQP and I fell under like an English qualified kind of status, I guess, which was valuable to them and didn't really mean much to me. I was kind of like, yeah, sweet, my mum was born in England. Right before like the autumn internationals, there was a bit of conversation around, oh, you could be eligible for England, you could be eligible for Canada as well. The England head coach at the time, Simon Middleton, came up to me and we had a conversation about playing for England on the sidelines after a game, and he said, yeah, you've been playing well. We could see how it goes, but we'd probably maybe call you into an England A setup. That would be kind of the way we go, because you played under 20s for Canada, and normally we use under 20s as like the pathway. And I just aged out. I'd just played my last kind of bit for under 20s in Canada. But there was never anything really like firm. He just kind of said that's kind of the route. And I was pretty blasé about it. I was like, yeah, sounds good. Like I don't really know like where I'm going or what I'm doing. And then probably a week later, the Canada coach called me up and said, we want to cap you in this like autumn test against England. Would you be keen for it? And I was like, well, I guess, there's no time like the present. You might as well just jump in with both feet. And so for me, I was like, yeah, why not? Wasn't even really like a thought process, because that's the kind of the dream to play for like the country that you're born in. I got one cap, was a one cap wonder for quite a while, played against England up in Doncaster. So it was actually quite a close game. And I don't remember it at all, to be honest. Like I just remembered the whole build up to it and then running on the pitch. And then I think I did like one scrum maybe, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is international rugby, and got like bent in half and was like, nice, sweet. And then got 2 more caps after that against the US for Canada. And then COVID kind of hit, and that was kind of it. And I took a bit of a step back from rugby in general, and there was a bit touch and go. I kind of went back into a Canada camp, and for me it just didn't really feel right. Like I think time had passed and I was like, oh, maybe this isn't really like my dream or really aligns with me. I thought it was maybe my dream, but I actually don't probably fit into this environment. It didn't feel like it was me, and it just didn't feel authentic to their program as well. Like it just felt like I was kind of filling a role that I wasn't 100% that I wanted to fill anyway. So I said no, and at that point I had gone back to uni as well, because it was in the middle of COVID. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to use this time to get my body sorted, get some of my uni done, and so I was kind of back and forth. So I was like, no, I'm just going to stay the course and enjoy my time while I can, and then I'll go back to England, and whatever happens. Flew back in January, and then I swear every prop in the world just either retired or got hurt or something happened. And England forwards coach Lewis Deacon gave me a call and said, do you want to come into camp and see how you get on? And I said, yeah, sure, why not? I'll see how it goes.
Combination of Akin Davis with Byrne. It's going to be 2-3 and finished by 1. Mackenzie Carson.
I'm Morwenna Talling and I play for Sale Sharks and England. Mackenzie Carson on the pitch is just like a unit. She carries so hard, really good in the scrum. Off the pitch, she's just energetic, will bring you up when you're down, kind of person.
My name's Abby Burton and I play for Trailfinders Women and for the Red Roses. So I would describe Mackenzie on the pitch as a powerhouse, but also very detailed on her role and the knowledge of her role. And off the pitch, I would describe her as completely loyal to the people that care for her. It's an amazing quality to have, and I see that every day.
Mackenzie Carson finding the space and getting through for the score, her second.
I guess I was recently diagnosed probably in the summertime, with ADHD, and it's probably been something that I've been pursuing for the last few years. I think I just then struggled academically, and maybe it was probably because I was a bit too focused on the rugby, but it always seemed like I just couldn't quite, I needed extra support, and I just didn't feel like when I went to university and there wasn't people there kind of telling me that I needed to do things, I really struggled. Probably why I ended up taking a break from university as well is just because I felt like, I was like, well, I don't want to waste time, I don't want to waste money, I don't want to, not know where I'm going and kind of throw an opportunity away. So I think I'm just going to put it on pause and try and go play some rugby and enjoy myself and see if I can kind of iron some of those things out. And I think probably looking back on it, it was actually just probably because I had ADHD and I just didn't really know how to cope with it. And I probably didn't really have the support in place to be able to get through my degree the easiest way and like the best way probably possible, which in one hand, it's great because it's led me to all these amazing opportunities, and my life probably wouldn't have turned out the way it has now had I just had that support and gone to university right away and did that. But at the same time, I think I probably would have saved myself a lot of struggle if I had been diagnosed a bit earlier. I had just kind of struggled with my mental health, and there was a lot of things that went around the ADHD, I guess. And yeah, then me struggling at school, and then when I came over here, like I got different jobs and stuff like that, and then I would struggle in a job and stuff, and I was like, oh, it's the kind of the similar things I'm struggling with, like my time management, like my emotional regulation, like things like that. So I was like, okay, maybe it's not where I am or like what I'm doing. Maybe it's just something like internal. 2 years ago now, I went to the GP and was just like, I'm really struggling. And I definitely was struggling. And I think that was probably just a product of the ADHD and how it was like manifesting and the way I kind of perceived myself and the pressure I was putting onto myself rather. And they were like, well, we can put you on antidepressants and you can that's the easiest way to kind of cope with these. And then you can join the wait list for the NHS, and it's really long and it'll probably take a while. But he was kind of like, oh, well, are you super fidgety and like, can you sit still? And I was like, well, yes and no. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess I'm also an adult. Like, I kind of know there's some level that you have to do, but do I still struggle? Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I don't have it. Like, I don't know. So there was a lot of like misconceptions, and there wasn't really like a clear route to kind of go. So I waited on the wait list and had a few like initial calls. And then, yeah, once I got contracted with England, I had a bit more financial stability and I was able to kind of pursue a private diagnosis. And yeah, ended up getting that in this past summer, I guess, and just made everything make sense, really, to be honest. ADHD can cause you to struggle with your mental health, and there's kind of like that back and forth with it. And I think especially as women, there's a lot of people that go undiagnosed and are, diagnosed later in life because it presents very differently. And there's not that clear fidgety kid that is always like misbehaving, I guess. Although I probably fit that bill in some capacity. But for girls, it's a lot more about their like internalization, how they perceive themselves, time management, emotional regulation, and like rejection sensitivity, all those kind of buzzwords that are happening at the minute. And which is great because so many people are learning about it, and myself included. Like, I don't know everything about it, that's for sure. To be honest, also when I worked at the Sarah Foundation working with SEN kids, I was like, I just like feel this pull towards SEN kids. Like, I just love inclusion. And then I was like, it's because I'm in the community like that. These are my people. That's why. So that was probably a bit of a light bulb moment where I was like, oh, okay, maybe, I actually really relate to these people because I've had my own struggles, I guess. Yeah, I guess I thought about kind of being more public about it because I hadn't really seen many people talk about it, I guess. And it was kind of just something that was going on in my life. And I thought, it probably just makes a lot of sense to kind of speak about that as well. And I'm a pretty like open person in terms of that. I've started medication, which has been great. And it's definitely helped with like my energy levels and just being able to kind of stay a bit more balanced and not have those like super big bursts of energy and then kind of burnout crash. I have like an ADHD coach now, which is able to help me in little things that can probably help my overall life, my time management and things like that. Just access to people who have more knowledge than I do. And I think I'm like, well, I've gone 26 years of trying to figure it out myself and it's not always worked. So maybe I should probably, get some support in that sense. So I think overall it's just really helped me, especially in a rugby setting, be able to kind of sit through those meetings and get things done and probably have a bit more focus and just, I think I described it as being a bit less frazzled and a bit less anxious and worried about everything that's going on and doing a million different tasks. I'm able to kind of just sit there and be a bit more present and be a bit more confident in myself. Just that recognition, like your brain's wired a different way. You've not done something wrong. And so I think that's probably the biggest part. I just have ADHD and I've got a lot of energy sometimes and I've got not a lot of energy sometimes. And that's just kind of the way it is. So probably benefited the people around me more than myself, to be honest. I first met Sarah Bern when I first came over to England to play for the Bristol Bears. She was playing for England and Bristol at the time. And she was always really welcoming. And she was kind of one of my first friends that I made in the UK. And from there, we kind of just blossomed a relationship, I guess. We got on like a house on fire and we were constantly kind of just in the back giggling at training and having fun. And it was just a really nice friendship. And me, her and Rito just spent a lot of time together. And she was just interested in a lot of the same things. And she was probably the first person that was like, you're actually quite good at rugby. Like, do you realize that? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of doing my thing. And she was like, no, I think you're like quite good. Like, I think you could actually go quite far with it. Thinking back to kind of that time around, playing for Canada and getting capped, she was like, oh, just wait, like just play for England and you'll be able to do it. And I was like, I'm not going to play for England. Like, that's obviously not going to happen. Like, it's just so far out from where I am at. Like, there's just no way. But she was kind of somebody that was just always in my corner and always kind of, had my back, I guess. And then our lives kind of took different paths, and she was doing her thing and I moved across to Sarries and was kind of back and forth between Canada. And then, we reconnected when I got called into the England squad, and she was kind of like, finally. And I was like, well, all right, whatever. And then from there, we just kind of grew a relationship, and now we're 2 front row together, I guess.
I'm Sarah Bern and I'm Mackenzie's girlfriend. My first impression of her was, I was like, wow, who's this Canadian who's joined our team, full of life, funny, a go-getter, like wants to try new things. And she was a brilliant rugby player. She is a brilliant rugby player. I really gravitate to people like that who just want to have a really good time, but also work incredibly hard, like on the rugby pitch as well. So that was it. I really enjoyed her company, and I think we both really enjoyed each other. And like I said, I thought she was this really beautiful Canadian that came over that was really cool at first, and it was like kind of having your best friend there, and that's how it evolved. I think was actually, this is someone I could really enjoy life with and who I find attractive, and I want to go and explore the world with them and make each other better as people and players. So Mackenzie's ADHD diagnosis, I think it was great for Mackenzie because I think she felt she can really now authentically be herself, and it's not the naughty child in school or the person who can't pay attention or can't remember things. It's her makeup is different, and let's celebrate that rather than feel bad about it. I'm really proud of her for just being herself and learning to celebrate herself. I love her as a person. I love her energy. I love how happy she makes everyone around her. I think how cool is that to be with someone who is always the person who lights up the room, or the people go to because they find her funny, or people go to because they need some support, or they need some care or affection, or they need to talk through something difficult. Like Mackenzie can be all of those, and that I find that a really special thing. I think she's had so many struggles along the way. She's so incredibly resilient. The journey she's had has been one hell of a journey. I'm in awe of how incredibly hard she's worked to get to where she is. And I'm so excited to see where she goes.
Sarah's someone I've always admired as a player. I think she's always been world class, and she's always somebody that's been at the forefront of the women's game for the last however many years. And so I think I always admired her as a person and a player. And then obviously being together and having a relationship, it's been really positive for me because she's kind of been able to help probably shy away from the struggles that you have as transitioning to a front row, and also coming into the Red Roses and the pressure that comes onto that. So I think she was definitely a huge rock in that sense, and she was able to support me through that because she had done it herself. She had transitioned from playing a back row and was this amazing tight head, and she was kind of the finished product in a lot of ways. So it was just great having her by my side, and we kind of built that friendship first. So I think that's what made it such an easy way to kind of be together, was that we had such a good friendship at the start. Yeah, when I chose to play for Gloucester, I knew that the Gloucester-Bristol rivalry was still kind of a thing, I guess. Facing against your partner is one thing, but I think scrummaging head to head against them is another. So I'm a loose head and Sarah's a tight head, so we don't compete for a shirt necessarily, but we do compete against each other at scrum time, especially when we're playing for Bristol and Gloucester. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. It's not my ideal situation. It's been really fun actually, and we have a lot of fun with it. And yeah, there was probably some smack talk leading up to the semi-final, which Gloucester won anyway, so which I knew would happen. But it's just amazing to be able to do these things with your partner, and we get to travel all over the world, and it feels really special, and it can also be challenging in a lot of ways. We both know that we're pushing each other to be the best player, and we can give each other feedback, and it's great. So it's definitely not unique to the women's game, because I think a lot of people are pretty open about their sexuality, and they have their partners within the team or other teams, and even other countries. We have a few girls that are their partners play for other countries. So yeah, I think it's quite special to be able to do it with Sarah. And yeah, she's just always been in my corner, and I think she's been a huge part of kind of how I've gotten to where I am. And at the end of the day, it'd probably be nice to play with her all the time, but sometimes you have to go against her, and yeah, she's a tough nut to crack, that girl. So she's probably one of the best props in the world. So yeah, she's, I guess, my inspiration. But don't tell her I said that.